Hello there, and welcome to my Arty Corner here on YouTube. A few gaps there, I was forgetting what I was going to say. Anyway, welcome here. If you're new here and you enjoy what you see, please consider clicking the subscribe button and also the bell button if you want notifications of when I release videos, most days, but it can be a bit random depending on what's going on in life these days. And thank you to everybody who's already subscribed, and I appreciate that so very, very much. By the way, it's completely free, it doesn't cost you anything. Strange name, subscribe. Follow would have been better, suggesting you don't have to pay, but you don't, it's completely free. So, thank you for joining me, and thank you for all the lovely comments, the helpful advice and suggestions and requests and all sorts of things. It's lovely, and for the shout outs and shares and everything else. So I really, really appreciate everything that you do, both to support and encourage and to share. It means a lot. Thank you. And no further ado, we're going to get on with it, I think. So today I just want to draw for the pleasure of drawing. I may use alcohol markers. I've got a plan of what I want to draw, sort of a very vague plan. As in, I open my visual reference book, I call it my Zibaldoni, my visual dictionary, my little storehouse of patterns and motifs, to this page. Oh, and this one. So I don't quite know what I'm going to be doing yet. Well, I do, because I've chosen one motif. But I have here a piece of marker paper, and this is Ohuhu marker paper, and it's about 17 centimetres by 12.5 centimetres, which in old money is nearly 7 3/4 inches by, if I remember right, is 5 inches-ish. So it's a fairly large piece by Zentangle tile terms, but it's the perfect size piece for me. So I have got here, I've got a couple of pens out. I've got my Zig Writer, I've got an Arteza, and I've got a 0.1 Molotov black liner. Well, yeah, what can I say? So my motif today, I'm going to start up here. I've chosen a particular kind of flower I think I'd like to do. So I'm going to start with 2 concentric circles, roughly concentric. They don't have to be exactly concentric or exactly circular for that matter, because that one definitely isn't. And I'm just going to fill the centre with some smaller circles like so, and then I'm going to go back to my pencil because I want to draw a kind of circle around there and another one, and I'm not being very fussy about exactly how I draw that circle. I want some randomness. That was deliberate, I know, because I want some randomness in perhaps the size and nature of what I'm doing here. So these are petals, I suppose, but I'm not connecting them to the centre. I'm leaving a gap between them, which is why I drew a pencil circle close to the inner circle, which sounds really conspiratorial, in the inner circle. They're not conspiring at all, neither am I. So I'm just going to go all the way around here. And this kind of looks like it's floating, or, you know, I guess it's more that this is embedded in this outer layer. So I am going to take a couple of liberties with that pencil line, because sometimes it feels like it's a very long way to go. Oh, and that's a very strange one. But that's my basic thing. Now, next job, we're going to thicken these lines and round these corners in between. So I'm going to stick to my rule of to the bottom and the left, but I am always going to put some weight between these, even where I haven't got a left side. This, you see, is this way round. It's hard to describe, but this would be the shadow edge here, because we're starting to go to the bottom, if that makes sense. Yeah, because it's lower than... If we take it this way, then everything that, if we move like a line round that is to the bottom edge of that line or that bar, is going to be shadowed, and the other way it's the opposite side, as it were. I don't know if that makes any sense. So here, if I move my pen this way, the top will be highlighted, but the bottom, the underneath edge here, will be in shadow. So as I go around each side until I get here, it will be this side that gets the bit of shadow in. Some of these are going to be a bit clunky, but you know what? It's Wednesday morning, what can I say? And it's, you know, I've had a mug of tea. I have had a mug of tea, but I'm still not quite with it. Got a headache, a bit of a headache actually this morning. Sleeping awkwardly or just too hot at night. So that already has started to give some weight and some structure, or the suggestion that we have some volume to this. But we need to do the same here. So I definitely want to add some weight at the bottom of this one. Just want to do something there with that. But for this one, I think I'm going to do it on the inside at the top, to give that appearance that perhaps this is a little bit higher than that central piece, as it were. So if we've got a hole looking inside, well, that didn't make sense. As if we're looking almost through a hole that's in this outer edgy bit. And I am going to do something here because there's a large area here that feels a bit weird. Well, it does to me. So I am going to put some of these on, but I'm going to add some weight at the bottom as well, so that they feel that they, perhaps it's almost like this ring here is starting to get some cracks in it. Perhaps. I'm not saying that's what it is, but that's how it sort of feels to me. Most probably doesn't look anything like that, but in my head it says that. So I always find it a really nice thing to use something that's, or motif that's a little bit different to what I've been doing. I mean, the last, 3 videos, I've been a bit obsessed with spoolies. That doesn't mean a spoolie may not appear here somewhere. It may very well do. I don't know yet. Because they are such, they can be such dimensional objects. They're perfect for that high contrast that we can get in various motifs. So I was racking my head for something other than Oysteroid or spoolies or swerve. And my brain's just not working today. And that's okay, I can live with that. That's fine by me. So there we've got this going on, and I think that is just fine. Adding shadows or colour and contrast to this will bring out that dimension even more. This is just the start. So it's always nice to do these things in groups of 3. Always, always, always. So, sorry, I got a bit distracted because I could hear a lorry coming. It's Wednesday. And Wednesdays are my Able and Cold delivery days. So my organic food delivery. And they do tend to come a bit later than they used to. Because, I mean, there was a time where the previous delivery driver, who's moved on to pastures new, was here not long after 5 o'clock in the morning, especially in the summer. So I was up at stupid o'clock on Wednesdays. I still get up at stupid o'clock on Wednesdays, well, relatively speaking, but far more civilised hour at the same time. So I'm keeping an eye open so that I can get my the delivery in as soon as possible, especially as it's quite warm out. So it all comes packaged in, stuff that needs to be kept cool is kept in sort of like insulated packaging with ice packs in. All really reusable. And the insulation is all wool, which is really interesting. Like, almost like felt, but not felt. So, environmentally friendly. So it's a bit of a highlight of the week when that arrives. And yesterday I baked bread. Well, my bread maker did. I just threw everything in. And it was actually really, really lovely because I had... I made a sort of like slightly spiced fruit bread. It's actually quite sweet bread. If anything, it's perhaps a bit too sweet. And it came out really well. The last time I made bread, it was a real disaster. I followed the recipe, everything. But for whatever reason, it was horrible. I made a wholemeal bread, and wholemeal bread is really, I find it really tricky to make, and it was incredibly sour tasting, so I didn't know whether it was the milk powder I'd put in, because milk powder is really brilliant in bread making. It really improves the texture of bread. So whole milk. Or whether the yeast was off, but the flour couldn't have been off because it was a brand new pack of flour. And I followed the recipe. I even put my reading glasses on to double check measures, because I think the loaf I'd made the time before, I'd completely messed up with quantities. I really did. And it was like a lump of concrete by the time I'd finished, or by the time it had baked. It was awful. But we all do these things, nothing, bit of distraction, and yeah. It was an interesting experience, let's just put it that way. And so I was so pleased this turned out right. But then with this particular recipe for a spiced fruit loaf for sweet bread, it's never ever failed me. Never ever. So, but I've got a recipe for Japanese milk bread to try. But I've got to get some plain flour first, and I'm not ready to do I didn't realise that before I did my Abel & Cole shop this week, otherwise I'd have ordered some plain flour from them. But I could, there's no rush or panic, so. But you add an egg to it. I suppose it's almost like a Japanese version of brioche, which I have made in the past, and it's lovely. And I've got a recipe for that works. Okay, I do want another one, and I think I am going to put this in a cluster of 3 here, and then I've got plenty of space around. To draw other stuff, because I could just fill the whole space with just these. I've put that the other way round, haven't I? Okay, it is what it is. That's because I'm talking, not concentrating. And that's part of the problem with me remembering to zoom in or zoom out, or to keep things in view, is that I get so engrossed in what I'm doing, and I'm talking and, that kind of stuff, and I forget to do things. think it's because even though I've been making videos now for most probably over a year, don't really know, and I've done so many, and yet you'd think I'd learn by now, wouldn't you? Oh, it doesn't compute. So yeah, so just fill that in there completely, because that would make some sense. That little bit filled in completely there would make some sense. It would make life a bit easier as well when it comes to colouring or whatever. So yeah, so you would really think that I'd learn by now. The answer is nope. It is that getting engrossed in what I'm doing is the biggest thing. That is a problem or an issue for me. Yeah, I could do with somebody shouting at me, Angela, Angela, zoom in, zoom out, zoom in. But that's not possible. That's probably why I'd never do a live stream, because I'd be completely oblivious to people's questions and comments and so on. Because I'd get so engrossed in what I'm doing, I'd forget to have a look to see what people are saying or asking or, you know, requesting. I'm sure it could be fun, I guess, but perhaps not. Okay, let me just get my finer pen again and just take care of business here. Got some wobbly lines going on. These Molotov pens are lovely. Just a shame I can't grip them in a way that allows me to feel like I'm in control of the pen. Why is that? I don't know. But sometimes you have to buy things and try them. Say it is such a shame, because the ink in them is really lovely. But, you know, it's all cool. So I've got all of these here. Now I do want some other things that will sort of like fit in, and I'm looking at something that's a bit different that could go here. And I think what I'll do is I am going to pop some shapes in here. Yes, I know. I'm going outside the line, but that is an Angela thing to do. So I put these in as guidelines, but it doesn't mean I'm always going to follow them. In fact, let me have a look. Where's my eraser? Because I'm not happy with that arrangement of these. If you want things to erase nice and neatly, don't press too hard. Light touch, light enough so you can see what's happening. So while I've got my eraser out, I'm going to erase the pencil lines I put in around these. There'll be some traces, but you know, it is what it is. And okay. All right, so let me have a look here. Perhaps if I start here, and let's just do one. So I want these kinds of shapes going on, and I will have a little stalk or stem there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a big one of these in the middle. I'll try and get my big hand out of the way so that you can see. So I've drawn kind of a very rounded, almost leaf shape, or long, narrow triangle, I suppose, with rounded corners. And I am going to use plenty of black here for contrast as well. And these little things in the middle here, would be quite nice if I created them like they're little seeds or little somethings. I want to leave a gap around them because I want some colour shading. I am planning on doing this monochrome, by the way. I'm going to pick some nice colours, possibly. I tend to go towards the blue-greys so much. I do love alcohol markers, but a lot of my problem with them is that everything seems to be so brightly coloured, and I'm after things that are softer and more muted. I'm a bit aged, I suppose, or a bit grungy in some ways. And now with these little white highlights, if I lose them, because I'm not likely to try and keep these white as I colour in, gel pens. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw shapes in from this that will roughly echo this, the outline here, and they're not all going to be the same shape or same way of doing them. Just I like this kind of collection almost of seeds in a seed head. Makes me quite happy. Mind you, just art makes me quite happy, to be honest. So I'm going to have a nice day, I think, with this, because I won't finish it on camera. But I have a feeling I may spend some time doing this. And I also have been playing around with lettering. I'll show you that in a moment, hopefully. Now then, this needs, I am going to find a different pen than the Molotov because it's irritating me. This is an 02 micron, which will do. And yes, I do mix and match pens. It's whatever happens to be there that's the right size that I want. So this is definitely a smaller nib than the uni pen. And I am going to fill some of these little gaps in, you know, just round the edge here. I don't want to round them out, I want them going inwards. So they feel like they're connected, like there's a little area that connects them, but doesn't take away that interesting edge that we get there. So it's not a smooth edge. And then I will pop a stem in, and my stem is going to go wider to narrower there. And I'm going to start adding some weight to these. Again, it's to the left and bottom. Okay, I think that's all, just to increase that kind of contrast that's there. And then here, I could add some leaves or something else going on here. And that's my delivery. So I shall be back in a few mo's. So there we go. Okie dokes. That's all my stuff put away, which is great. Not a huge amount this week, but a lovely and delicious amount. So I'm a happy bunny. So I'll be able to cook later on. I feel a curry coming on. Some lovely chilies in there. So that should be interesting. Must remember to chop some up and freeze them as well at some point. So I'm enjoying doing this. I'm trying to work out what I could put here, but I think I may just pop in perhaps another spike here that's hidden behind, and one here that perhaps, let me have a look, I need it this kind of way, that is perhaps a little bit smaller than that one. Perhaps that one could be a little bit smaller as well. Perhaps. Let's have a look. Because it's that getting the angles right. So I'm drawing in the centre line and then I'm having a look at how I can fit these in. Yeah, we'll work with it. We'll see how it goes. So I'm going to do a couple more of these. So I do want a nice big one to start off with. And then everything else will sort of just fit in around there. And it's fine. I'm not doing partial ones of these. I'm going to assume that, oh, we've got one overlapping here. That's fine. That's how it's going to work. That wasn't deliberate. It just happened. So, slip of the pen. But you can see there. So, sorry for my pen and my hand get in the way. I normally draw with my pen practically upright. So, like this. And of course, it will easily get in the way. More easily get in the way. This one needs to be that little bit bigger, I think. So let's fill in the little gaps and also put some ink in the gaps around the outside edge to smooth or to connect these shapes together. And then it's the extra ink to the left and the bottom of these shapes. And if I have to go back and add a little bit more ink in, I will do. And then we can get our stem in there. And again, making that stem. This is a bit strange here, so I think I may just go here with a partial one of them just to fill that shape in there. I actually think I've made a right pig's ear of it, but it is what it is now. And, but, you know. Let's get a nice big one there. And the inner one. Like so, and then let's start adding others connected to this central one. I think that's the way to go. Yeah, worked it out. I'm putting narrower ones on the side, but I'm trying to make the outs of the side of, right, these smaller ones connected to this big central one. I want the edges, them to be longer and thinner so it looks like they're falling around the side. Yeah, so we're getting that kind of curve. But I also want to dome this edge a little bit so they don't form a nice straight line. So here, perhaps I'll pop one in like that, just for a bit of variety. But here, we're going to have one here. I think I'm going to have one there to complete the top. And that might actually be a nice way to go, is to put those outer circles in first and then come back and fill these in. But either way works. It's just personal preference, or sometimes I just change things up, alter what I'm doing a little bit just for just because it keeps the brain working, I suppose, and you don't, you know, if you go on autopilot, it can be very meditative, but it's also very easy to go, what am I doing? What's going on here? And even though we need to be, I like to be in a kind of meditative state when I'm drawing. I do lose myself in what I'm doing, but not in a mindless way. Mindfulness is not mindlessness. They're not the same thing. Mindfulness is just being aware of what you're doing at the moment. Rhythm and, you know, keeping things very much the same can be very soothing and very calming. But there also needs to be attention paid to what you're doing so that you don't slip up and make mistakes. And those are going to be very, very high contrast, aren't they, in comparison to everything else. So that's going to be a lot of fun to do. This really is. So I think I'll draw. I don't want to have these going all the way round. I wouldn't mind having. I'm trying to work out where I perhaps would like some coming out. I think from here would be quite nice. So if I have one coming from the central part here, and perhaps see, I'm trying to work out how I can fit some in. Perhaps just one will work there, and I'll work something else out. Again, I'm going to start with a big one with the centre in. And start to build the shape out here, out to the edge. And then just fill everything in as it needs to go. With the others, I started in the centre, didn't I, with these shapes. And that's fine if that's, you know, it's working. I really can't find my words today. It's trying different things out until you hit on that works for me. Part of me is thinking perhaps working at the top and working down would work as well. But it really is just try things out until you find the way that it makes sense for you, or is an easy way for you to work. Now there's a really long thin one. That's because I can see I'm coming to the top part here, and I don't really want to have tiny little seeds, especially if I'm going to be adding colour to them. So I'm just going back and filling in these little spaces between them all. The interstices, if you wish to get technical, which come, you know, interstitial means the spaces in between. Interstices are the spaces in between. So I wonder if there's a word like ultrastitial. And the ultra means very, you know, very big. So ultrastitial can mean very big spaces. So it is now adding those shadows, or the extra lines rather, to the bottom and left. So we've done that. So I've got that one there. I think I may just manage to get one. I think I'd like one going this kind of way. Be quite nice. And perhaps I can do this where I draw all of these in and see how I can get these to fit in together to create this shape. And then go back and tidy everything up and put the central black areas in. That one's going to overlap, and I'm fine with that because it's the only one that does. And it sort of like goes with this one up here where we've got an overlap as well. So it shows that it's not a mistake, I suppose. It's, you know, it's happened. It's, you know, these things that are supposed to be or to exist in nature, and you are going to get some variations. And I've just realised I've put my dot there on the wrong side. So I'm just going to fill that with black, and then when it comes to adding alcohol markers to these, I'm not going to stress and fret about filling these little fat dots in. In fact, I may just go and fill them all in, because then I don't have to worry about them, and when I come back with with a white gel pen or some kind of white ink, oh, look, I've done it there, I'm actually drawing within that, then I don't have to worry about trying to fill the space exactly or hide things underneath. It's just about putting that highlight or that dot in the centre of these. So let me do that. Each of these. So that one is going to go behind, just that little bit there. And that's okay. Fill in the little gaps. Adds that little bit of rounding. Oops, missed a gap there. So I do that little bit of, corner rounding, inwards rounding, whatever we want to call it here, so that these connect together, or they feel like they're more connected, put it that way. They're not just lumped together. It's almost like this black between the gaps is just holding them all together. And I'm going to pop this round this way again, because that makes it easier for me to work out where the left and the bottoms of these are. So I can get that nice contrasting line going on there. That's the only other bit. And the last thing is my stem, and I think I'm going to take it like so. A little bit of extra weight there because I missed. And it would actually go behind this, so I don't have to draw anything more there. But I think I am just going to pop in here some little bits of weight at the bottom of all of these where they connect, because I do like that look where it almost feels like stained glass, like so. And very quickly, while I think about it, just going to fill in all of these, and I may do the little ones in the centres there. But you can see the difference just that little white dot makes. Brings that little highlight in. But we'll do that later with gel pen. And then I really don't have to worry about avoiding the little white circles. Not that I would anyway, because I, put gel pen or something like a Posca paint pen. Or white ink. I've got some white acrylic ink I could use with a paintbrush if I wanted to. Right, that'll work there. Whatever you have. So that's quite nice. So I've got a lot of contrast going on, but I really want the contrast with colours. So what I'm going to do is, this is about, I guess I'm about 3/4 of an hour long, is I think I'm going to finish drawing this. I'll mostly use these motifs, to be honest. I don't know yet. I'm trying to think about what I'd like to do here. I need to let the ink from the pens dry thoroughly before I do anything anyway. I know I've got my heat tool, but it does make the paper bend, and I'm not quite sure how it will affect this paper. But trying to work out what I do next. Okay, I think I may go with, I'm going to pop one of these here. So I am just, oops, you can't see because I'm off screen. So I've decided that I'm going to pop one of these here. So I've got that spray of 3. And then I think I might, leaves would be nice, but other things would also be nice. So I think I may, let me have a look here. I'm drawing a semicircle there, and I think I'll draw in another circle like this, and we're going to have this separated into segments. like so. So I have created this so it looks a bit higher. Now what I'm going to do with my finer pen is I'm going to use this to create perhaps a little frond of leaves in silhouette. Oh, excuse me, that's my door being knocked. Well, there we are, back again. So it's been an eventful morning, hasn't it? That was a neighbour, and just let me know that they need to turn the water off for a bit because he's got a leak in his kitchen that's beneath the floor, and the floor needs to come up. So that's really not a nice thing, is it? So it's fine. I've filled the kettle up with water so I can have tea, or I've got water for cooking if I need it. I've got plenty of drinking water. So it'll all be fine and well. The washing up can wait. So I finish this, and as this is processing, I'll go and get my second mug of tea, and most probably breakfast, to be honest. Because I'm feeling a little bit on the peckish side, to say the least. So just finishing this one off with you, and then we shall see what happens. So this one does butt up against the other, as it were. So I'm going to, well, we're not going to manage to keep all these little spaces in between, but it'll be fine because it'll be pretty obvious which is which, because these seed-like parts, sections of this motif do point in a different direction, so no worries there. So there we go. All's fine and well in the world. I can hear the cover of the main stopcock outside being lifted, so they're onto it. So fingers crossed, it'll all get sorted for the chap who has two lovely young cats that I love to watch bounding around and playing. Get a good view from up here in my office space. So that's where I've got to so far. Oh, and I was doing this as well, wasn't I? I was. So I'll just go back and finish this motif off. So there's this one here. Let's just make that a little bit more pointy and shaped like that. And I think that just looks fine there. Perhaps another one here. And I think that leaf would actually, or leaflet would actually go off under there, so that's nice. Again, I've done it almost like it's in silhouette, and if I need to, I can always come back with white ink to add some details. Now these bits on the outside, I definitely want to do some weights at the end, line weight at the end of each, I think. So I've got that going on, and then I'm going to do some at the bottom as well, but I am going to try to make those a little bit longer. I'm using this pen on the edge to try and keep my hand out the way so you can see what I'm doing, and it doesn't want to draw very nicely on when it's on its edge, I do have to say. So there's that one, and there's this one as well. So that will work quite nicely there. So I'll do a few more of these, and I also think there's a couple more things I need to do with this. One is I am going to thicken the line here because I want to put another border on this as if it's bounded by a ring that holds it together or keeps its structure. A bit like a cell wall, I suppose. And or cell membrane. Yeah, we're getting scientific on you. And the inner one here needs to be that little bit thicker now, because to get that. So that'll work. These shapes now have become quite clunky. So that's a lesson for me, is to wait until I've done all of this before I start joining lines together. But I want to get a nice smooth curve going rather than... So we are getting sort of petal shapes going on here, but I'm fine with that. And again, there's a lot of contrast in that, just with the ink. But it gives me the basis of where I want to put shadow and highlight when I come to add colour. So I'm going to add some more of those. No doubt I'll be adding some other things. Spoolies may appear, I am warning you in advance, because I do like them. But there are all kinds of other things that I could just pop in. I've just seen something that's really quite interesting. And I'll just pop one of these in here, because I'm not necessarily going to group these together, and I may put different things in the centre, because, well, why not? So I've just seen something here I would quite like to have. So I'm going to draw a circle-ish shape. You really don't have to worry too much about whether it's perfect or not. Okay. And I am going to do something here where I'm going to draw a circle in the middle, and I'm going to draw radiating lines in pencil out to the edges like that, and then I am going to create almost like little starbursts, and then I'm going to join these together here. Now this is where things will get interesting, because I want that to appear as if it's an opening and that there's something inside. So instead of thickening the lines at the bottom and the left, I'm going to reverse it. So I'm going to do them towards the top. So if I'm going towards the top from the bottom, these are the lines I'm going to thicken. And I am going to give them a little lip down like so. And then this side will reverse it, so. And up here we'll just have one there. That's a bit clunky. And I do want to thicken these bits there just a little bit, just to help with that. So I've got that kind of feeling, which means that it's got that feeling of possibly being quite dimensional. So that's a fun one. I'll do another one very quickly, because I'm not sure whether I was completely on camera then or whether you could see everything. So I am going to thicken the outside edge to the bottom and left. I'm going to draw my circle in pencil. And then for this one, I did the line straight there. For this one, I'm going to actually have them curving as if I have a curved surface here. And I'm going to make my triangle shapes follow that curving path. So I'm going to have them like this. Join that up, And then again, it's going to be, I'm going to use the finer pen for this because that one is just a bit on the thick side. So I'm going to add some line weight to the lines that are closer towards the top, pointing towards the top, as it were. I'm also going to thicken these parts that are, again, pointing more to, you know, are on the top edge, as it were. It's so hard to describe, but you can see what I'm doing and where I'm adding that contrast, I think. So there we are. So there's another one. And that one, because I've curved the lines, there's a lot more feeling of dimension to it. That one does feel rather flat. So I do want to put a third one here, and I am going to pop it. I'm so tempted to pop it there, but I think I will pop it just here. And I'm going to put the outlines in for another one, and I'm going to leave that at 3 here, probably. I say probably because anything can happen with me. 4 is an unusual thing, but it does look like we've got 1 on top of 3. So odd numbers in the layers. So that'll do. That'll do. That'll do. Okay, so again, it's that case of getting the circle in. And I am going to bend these lines. Put some others in as well where they would be. And then let's get to, oh, the finer one. Nope, I'll use this one for those V shapes. And joining them up as I go. And you could do this without the pencil lines, and I must probably have at some point in time. But adding the pencil lines just makes it so much easier to follow what you're doing, I guess. So we've got those there. So what requires now is that extra weight. Oh, that's a lot in the bottom, but that's fine. I can live with that. It's all the excitement. Try to get things done, and oh, what can I say? Everything goes to pot at times. It's got to be Wednesday. So there we go. And when these are coloured in, I can add further texture. I've got the feeling I'd like to put like little U shapes in, perhaps with some highlights in to give some texture there. But I'm going to leave that until after I've added some colour to this, because I just think that that would be rather useful in its own way. I'm going to try and get these so that the sizes I've used. Oddly, I've used an 03 and an 02. But bear in mind the 03 is quite an old pen, and the nib is quite flared out a bit, or wider than it should be used. So it's got a thicker line than an 03 would, fresh and new. So I'm going to say thank you for joining me. I hope this has given you some ideas of how you can draw things, what you can do. The next time you'll see this, and this probably will be completely drawn, and I'll add some colour perhaps to it and work with contrast and colours and so on. As I said, I'd quite fancy doing a fairly monochrome scheme for this. We'll see what happens. So until next time, take care of yourselves and find time to be creative. Bye-bye for now. Bye. Hoyle.